Welcome to this special called Amplifying Youth Voices. Today is Mental Health Action Day. If you are not familiar with this day, congratulations for stumbling upon this special. Today is all about how we can take, as humans, action towards our mental health or mental wellness simply by taking 1 hour, or maybe you'll be here for the whole 2 hours that we do this special to really learn about your mental health, know how you can help your mental well-being. And it is in collaboration with MTV Entertainment, lots of other nonprofit organizations and organizations across the world. I think there's well over 2,000 now that participate on this day. This is our second year participating and having a special on E360 TV. And I'm super excited because this year I have several guests that are going to be able to share their story, their journey through whatever they've been through as related to mental health. And I always have the saying that I tell everybody else that if you don't make time for your mental wellness, then you will be forced to make time for your illness. And I got a big eye-opening, of course, this morning. I have been going. I am the founder of the nonprofit called Make Mental Health Matter. And this month is also Mental Health Awareness Month. So it is one of our biggest months. And of course, this morning, just like every other day, I have a jam-packed schedule. Well, my body decided that wasn't what was going to happen. I actually got up, got ready, and then as I was taking my son to school, I started getting a migraine. And if anybody out there has ever gotten migraines, at least for me, they're very debilitating. I get the auras in my eyes. I start feeling really, really sick. I actually had a meeting that I ended up having to say, I'm sorry, but I can't come to. So I laid down for a little while and I'm feeling a little bit better, which is great. But I also just, again, going. This month actually sometimes stresses me out more than it's helpful for me. And oftentimes as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as nonprofit founders, we're always worrying about everybody else around us and we're not worrying about ourselves. Well, I, again, got that reality check this morning of, hey, you need to slow down. You need to take care of yourself. You can't continue to go because I'm important too. And so really today, that's what this is all about, is really understanding how we can prioritize ourselves over everybody else. And I know if you are a parent or you are a business owner or an entrepreneur or a founder like I am, you're like, I don't have time for that. That's what I said this morning as I'm getting the auras. I'm like, I don't have time for this. This cannot be happening today. I have this, and this. And this is our first event for today. We're doing another event tonight. So I had that moment, and we all have that moment. And we have to make the space and time, unfortunately, because illness is going to force us to take that pause. And sometimes our body kicks us in the butt and says, hey, by the way, it's time to take care of yourself. So that's what today is all about. And of course, you know, I had to have that lesson taught to me this morning again. So without further ado, that's what today is going to be all about. I have some incredible special guests that are going to be coming up here in just a moment. They are going to be sharing their story with you. And we're going to just have a casual, open conversation. If you think about the Brady Bunch or Hollywood Squares, there's going to be a whole bunch of squares up here. This is interactive. So if you happen to be watching right now and you are either watching on YouTube or the Facebook page, you can send us questions or comments and I can ask them of any of our guest speakers. So maybe something comes up and you have this burning question. Feel free to drop it into the comments. You just have to give permission to StreamYard for them to pop up for me, but I can actually see them and we can answer them for you. So that's why I love these specials. And if you haven't ever watched my show before, Make Mental Health Matter show, I air generally on Mondays at 5 p.m. Mountain Time on E360 TV. We also are on Dream Vision 7 radio. So there's two ways to tune in. You can watch or you can listen. Hey, I always say this is not about perfection. This is just about getting the information out. So without further ado, I'm going to bring up all of my special guests so that we can have this conversation. We have Sam, Portia, Karen, and Drew. Thank you all so much for being here. All right.
Hey, I need to be in the middle. Isn't that where Paul Lynde was?
Right. I'm like, you're on my screen, but no.
It's all right, Sam. You're the honorary guy of the show. So there you go.
That's right. I have tough duty.
Right. Well, I am so honored to have all of you here today on the show. And there is a specific reason that I chose all of you. So I would love for you to share. And I'm going to start with some of my veterans that have been here before. But Drew, can you just share a little bit about yourself, your nonprofit, and why you do what you do?
Absolutely. Kelli, thank you for having me. My name is Drew Alborg, and I'm the co-founder and executive director of Bullying Recovery Resource Center. We are a nonprofit located in Denver, Colorado. We work across Colorado. Our mission is we defend bullied children and help rebuild lives. We are dedicated to providing the resources, education, and advocacy needed to stop bullying and help the child recover from bullying. We've been around since 2018, about the same time Kelli ramped up her nonprofit. We've been hanging out for years now in the nonprofit world. And we came to this out of personal experience. My son was relentlessly bullied when he was in middle school. And through that process, and it's a kind of a long story, we learned what bullying is, what it isn't. We sought a lot of help, expert help, legal help, things like that. And we learned how to advocate. We found there was no resources for us when we were in the middle of what we were going through. So we decided to become, that nonprofit, that organization that can help once the bullying has started.
Yeah. And I know you and I partner all the time because I can't even remember how we originally met, but I know ever since we there's so much synergy between what we do and you do. And I love your story and the background. And of course, it's not something that you ever want to have to go through with your family or would want another family to have to go through. But luckily, you were able to see this gap and really help in that space. So
thank you. So glad to be here.
Of course. All right, I'm going to go over to Portia. Do you want to share your story and a little bit about yourself?
Of course, Kelly. Well, first and foremost, Kelly, I extend my gratitude to you for inviting me on your show again. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Portia Booker. I am the host of the Grief Grand Tour TV show on E360 TV, where we focus on embracing gratitude in order to evolve grief. My journey of grief has been one of many tosses and turns. In the last 2 years, I have experienced the loss of both of my parents. And I noticed that through grief, there tends to be a lot of hidden mental wellness obstacles that we don't talk about. And so I'm very open about it. And I want to help more people to see their grief in a different light and find gratitude, reframe the way they see it, be intentional about their time, empower themselves and others through sharing their story, and also be able to forgive other people around them and themselves for what they didn't know. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, Portia, I was like, you need to come on. We actually just recently did another show with another host. So I'm just so lucky that we get to share this stage again with each other. I'm going to go over to Karen. Would you like to share a little bit about yourself and your story?
Well, good morning, and thank you, Kelly. And it's so wonderful to share this screen with all of you this morning and everyone out there listening. What an incredible day we're having, Mental Health Awareness Month, and all the things that are happening with it, and bringing awareness to it, which we do every day, 365 days a year. But this is a special month because we always try to do, everyone's trying to get in some fantastic things like what Kelly's doing today, and make sure that the world knows, please don't forget. It's easy to get going as you do in life and get going, and then all of a sudden you don't realize about the people that are suffering, our children. Well, I'm Karen Kamba, and I'm an international speaker, and I'm an author, best-selling author of The Snipers We Couldn't See. I wrote the book on schizophrenia my mother had, but actually the book is me from 4 to 64. And what I do is try to, I'm speaking for the children with no voice, because there's actually millions before me, during me, after me, that will continue to come that do not have a voice. They're not mentally ill, but they're in the home with the mentally ill parent or guardian. And they're not being heard. They're not being helped. They're kind of lost. They're full of fear, which was myself. So being that I lived it, I decided to use that and become a platform and become a mental health advocate for children that way. So I speak a lot, like I've spoke with K's down in San Diego with high school kids and stuff with that. And in Africa, I spoke to over 10,000 children in 12 days. So it's a lot of all over the board. It's worldwide. Globally, mental health is illness, and awareness is all over it's the whole world. It's not just in our back door. But what I do, Kelly, is I've got a team put together, and it's really, we're not off the ground yet, but we're designing solutions, and we're going after the 10 to 12-year-olds. We're going to try to get to the child before they get into the teenage years and have so much issues. When we talk and interview these children, they say they want to know. They're resilient. They want to know. They want you to define schizophrenia. They want you to define what's happening to them. They want you to define why they can't spell. How come they're having trouble? And for all bullying, everything, not eating, vaping, all of it. And so we're on the journey to make this happen. We've had some schools out in California. They're already on board with accepting the test when we get done with it. And then we'll move forward and hopefully get it to every child that we possibly can. And that's what I do, other than belong to another nonprofit, but as I know how busy you are with yours. So I'm just on my way to giving back, and I'm finally where I'm supposed to be, and I know I was chosen to do so. So now I'm finally living the life that I was meant to do.
Yeah, and Karen was another one that we, again, I'm not exactly sure how I met. I know that all of our paths have crossed for perfect reasons, right? But we just clicked also. And I love the fact, and we've had lots of conversations about how we can really help our youth, and specifically that age range, because we know that there's so much happening. I mean, like the hormones that are happening. Middle school is really, really hard, or transition school, junior high, whatever it's called, wherever you live. And it's a challenging time. And when we can really help in that space before we get later in life, and now we have all these challenges coming up, it's really super, super important. And I just love that the synergy between you and I has been amazing also. So
Yes, thank you.
yeah.
It's actually a gift. I feel as a gift. It's such a nice present to have you on my journey.
Yeah, I love it. So Sam, I'm gonna come over to you and
Oh boy.
share your story.
Well, you should have had me go first before all of this, because wow, you guys are all amazing. And Kelli, thank you for having me on here today. Kelli and I just met a couple months ago, actually, very recently, and we've shared a little bit about my story, and it begins 6 years ago. I had a series of, let's just say, life changes, life challenges that occurred, and I started into a mental decline. And being that stubborn old Italian guy from New York, I didn't share my feelings. I just kept it all bottled up, and you all can imagine what happens after that. So things just kept progressing downward, and then of course, right during COVID in May of 2020, I was diagnosed with stage 3 nasopharyngeal cancer. A little bit of a blow. I basically put everything on the back burner that was already bothering me, stuffed it down even further, focused on just killing the cancer. Went through the treatments, got through it. And once I completed my treatments of both chemotherapy and radiation, poison, by the way. Did I just say that out loud? That it was, anyway, it did save my life. Everything came crashing down, and I had a complete and total mental breakdown, something I could have never imagined for myself. I am a short Italian man, 148 pounds. And by the time I was retrieved off my couch, I had weighed 88 pounds. I had lost 60 pounds, have no recollection of that, have very little recollection of the 3.5 months I spent in the hospital getting treated. I remember, I think, the day I got released. One of my sisters and brother came out, stayed with me. Don't remember any of it. My children came to see me. Got nothing. I don't remember any of it. I finally, I get out of the hospital, and I was extremely weak. And I've been a pretty high level athlete for most of my life. I've been a pretty good athlete and always focused on my health and fitness. I'm a Jack LaLanne guy from the 60s. So I realized at that point in time that I had absolutely zero cardiovascular, and I had zero strength. I could not even do one push-up, just not even one. Went down, my face hit the ground. That was it. It kind of motivated me to get going, and I did. And I decided that I have to do the work, and I did. I finally kept on the medications that they had put me on, and got my strength going up until this day, where I'm still working on it. But then I got a little wrench in the story about 6 weeks ago. My cancer has returned. So I have, as opposed to it being metastatic, which was all over my head the first time, it's pretty centered. It's unfortunately on the base of my skull and on a nerve, and it's caused me to become numb in here. So I don't have any feeling, and it was about to get into my brain. So I really didn't have any choice but to get back onto chemo, or not chemo. They can't do that again, but I am doing some radiation and I'm on an immunotherapy drug. But my message, I think, would be to people to when you start feeling down, if you have to share with people. You absolutely have to get it out, because if you don't, I guarantee you it can happen just like it did to me. It can happen to anyone. You have to share, get it out, and then go about what you need to do to heal yourself. And I'm so glad you say it's mental awareness, not mental illness or mental health, because it is a health challenge every bit as much as cancer is. And I've told people in the past, not that I wanted either of them to come back, but if I had to choose one to come back, I would choose cancer, because I know I can beat it again. Mental health, those issues, I'm not so sure that I could do it. So again, thank you for being here and letting me ramble on.
No, thank you for sharing your story. And I know we just recently chatted more about your story. And when you said that to me too, was like, I would rather have cancer come back than the mental health challenges, because you know that you can fight the cancer. I mean, that's so powerful, learning and discovering that that's like the option you would rather choose. But the best part about really what we're talking about today with everybody is that hope and recovery is possible across the board, right?
Yes.
Whether it is cancer, whether it's bullying, whether it is grief and loss, whether it's our youth, or those mental health challenges. And I use challenge. That's a word that I prefer over illness, disorder, disease, whatever you want to call it. But we all have challenges that come up every now and again. I mean, the stats are really, really high. 1 in 25 Americans will experience a mental health challenge within a given year. And so that's any of us, really. And then 1 in 5 actually live with nope, I flip-flop those. 1 in 5 will experience a mental health challenge in a given year. Excuse me. And 1 in 25 will actually live with a severe mental health challenge. So like flip-flop the stats, but yeah, it's very, very common. And the whole thing is that it's a challenge, something that we can overcome. And I know that you were even in this really dark place that you don't remember a lot of it. And I think that kind of weeds through everything that we're talking about today, because I know for me, after I lost my sister to completed suicide in 2017, I was in this fog, and I talk about so many survivors of loss to suicide. And there's this fog that comes over you. And sometimes it lasts for a year, sometimes it lasts for years. And it's something that we learn how to move through. It's not something we shove down or try to bury, because when we do that, then it can come out in physical ailments, which that's not any fun either. So what I want to do really is, our stories are important, right? Knowing the background, knowing where we come from. But then I'd also like to and you guys, again, this is the first time we're kind of doing Hollywood Squares Brady Bunch style. So I don't know if you want to raise your hand, if that's helpful, or unmute yourself. But the question that's popping up into my head is this conversation about mental health, and those people that might be out there that are watching this, that are either taking care of somebody that might be struggling, or maybe they're out there struggling themselves. What would you like to say to them? I don't like to give people advice, because we all experience things differently. My experience is going to be very different than all of your experiences, and vice versa. But I think that giving information and facts is important. So if somebody's out there struggling, what would you offer to them at this moment?
Kelli, if you don't mind, I want to go because I want to respond to both you and Sam really quick. Because Kelli, when you opened up the show, you talked about how you had a migraine earlier, right? And how you took time to really listen to your body, like, hey, Kelli, by the way, don't forget I'm here. Take a rest, right? And Sam, to your point, like you would rather choose the cancer over experiencing mental wellness. I call it obstacles, Kelli. You call it challenges. I call it mental wellness obstacles, right? And I think to you, Sam, to your point with your diagnosis, which I'm sending my love your way, when it comes to anything that's dealing with our health, right? It takes a level of mental strength to tell ourselves every single day that we're going to beat this, right? And so I have my own journey of dealing with mental wellness obstacles, from both of my parents transitioning to even prior to that, losing my dream job. My dream job, talk about being devastated. I mean, I couldn't get out of bed for a couple, literally years. I cried about it often. I was numb to life, everything. So I would say, Kelli, to someone who's tuning in, whether they're a parent of someone who has children with severe mental health obstacles, or even themselves, right? The grief that comes along with that. I would say listen to what your body is telling you, because even right now, Kelli, as you alluded to in the beginning of your show, I'm currently on a sabbatical, which I have never taken a break from anything since both of my parents transitioned. I just kept going like the little train that could. But sure enough, it caught up to me, to the point where my skin started to say, hey, Portia, we don't like you today. We're going to break out in everything over the sun, even including on your face. And I'm like, great. So now do I have to wear a bag over my face when I go on interviews now? Thank God I look good today, but still, right? Your body talks to you. So really building that, number one, awareness piece and listening to what your body is saying. Number two, having that support system, whatever that support system looks like. Like for me, this past Sunday was Mother's Day. I think I cried several times on Mother's Day because my mom was my cheerleader. My mom was my person. At the same time, through my tears, I managed to take time to actually tell all the soul mothers in my life how much I appreciate them. I think, Kelli, you're one of them. I think I sent you a Mother's Day text. I called a couple people because I knew in my heart that I needed to convert this hurt, this feeling, into something positive. So in my eyes, I think that through any obstacle that we experience, whether it's mental wellness, whether it's spiritual brokenness, whether it's grief, we have the opportunity, we get to choose how we utilize our energy and how we convert it in order to help other people to see their journey differently.
Yeah, and I am thankful that you came on during your sabbatical. I knew you were on it, but I was like, will you come, please? So yes.
Well, I have something, Kelli. I think that what you're doing is incredible. Sam, my prayers and love for my family to you.
Thank you.
And if you need anything, we know we don't live far away. So if you need me to make you something or bring you over something, you just holler at me.
Thank you.
The beautiful thing that I want to share, like what Portia's saying, also, my mother committed suicide when I was 29 with her schizophrenia. So right when we were starting to love each other, somewhat understand mental schizophrenia, I lost her. People need to know, I think, that they're not alone. My biggest thing when I get out there and telling them, you're not by yourself out there. And don't think for 1 second that all of us have this perfect world out there and you're the only one struggling. And I always preach to, no matter what age, is that they're not alone. And that you need to say it out loud. Sometimes it's even someone that's given you a muffin or a roll, or you're sitting somewhere that people want to help and they want to give back, and people are good. I know that we're watching the world nowadays and everybody's thinking bad things, but the people are really, really good and they want to help you. So on that note is, what I feel with people is, everybody has something going on, and mentally 1 out of every 4 has mental illness. Someone's struggling with some form of mental illness. Then your next question is, how many of those have children? Then you think, well, then how come, why don't we just address this? And to Sam, I'm going to tell you, I always include cancer in my talks, and I'll tell you why. I say, how come it's so easy for people to understand? If I say I have brain cancer, or because I worked in oncology for 7 years, how come it's so easy for me to tell you? If I told you I had cancer, instantly there's sympathy. Instantly, there's love. Instantly, there's prayers. If I tell you I have schizophrenia, some of the percent walk away. Some are scared. Some are not wanting to help. You do not get instant love when you tell them you're mentally hurt. And in my visits with people, I tell them, why do you think cancer? Why can't the brain be hurt too? You know, how can the brain not be hurt too? We get hurt all over our body. We get all these diseases. So when I tell you my brain's hurt, because that's what it is, how come it's so hard for you to understand? So then we take off on that. So that's my cue to everyone out there. You're not alone, for heaven's sakes. And talk about it. And even if it's a bus driver, because some people are homeless. Another thing is they're mentally struggling and they're homeless. Who are they supposed to go to? So maybe that person that's giving you some mashed potatoes at the food center, ask them if they've got 5 minutes. If it's going to change your world and make you feel a little bit better that day, take that moment.
Yeah, I love that message too. I know oftentimes if I'm feeling kind of down or just not productive in a way, I like to do random acts of kindness. And that goes into what you were talking about, Karen, you don't know what other people are going through. And I often tell my husband that is even in day-to-day life, like you don't know anything about what somebody is truly going through. So how can we shift as people, as society, to say, hey, maybe their attitude towards me or about this situation is not about me. It's merely whatever they're going through and they're experiencing. And I think that is important for people to hear also. And you touched on so many really great points. There was something else that was on my brain and it went away. So I'll come back to it. But I don't know if Sam or Drew, if you had anything pop into your head.
Well, I'll just jump in here. I like, Karen was talking about find your people. And as I was looking around our little Hollywood squares here, right, we all have, like, I always talk about being in a nonprofit. We have this little sliver of pie that we're trying to make better. And, our lane is we're trying to help that child who's being bullied. But we've got mental health here. We've got mental illness. We've got, we've got grief. But the families that come to us, they're so relieved that someone that's actually walked through this before them and can offer the hope and the experience and the expertise to help them walk through it. And it's not easy. None of this stuff is easy, right? And Sam, my thoughts and prayers are with you. I have a brother in the hospital with cancer right now. So it's, there's a lot of feelings going on.
Yeah.
But we need our people, right? We need to. I called Kelly not too long ago with take off that nonprofit hat. I need a friend here, and Kelly put on that friend hat for me and walk me through some things. So I seek out my people, but that would be my, as even just as a person walking this earth, that has been one of my. I've got to find my people, and it's always helped me get through whatever I need to get through.
Yeah. Well, prayers to your brother as well. And to touch a little bit on what Karen said, to me, it amazes me. You said about if you say cancer, people, I'm so sorry and blah, blah, blah. If you say any kind of mental health challenge, it's, they back up. How in the world in the year 2024 can we still be there? How how do we still have to break that stigma? I don't fathom it. I can't understand it in my head. It doesn't make sense to me that we're there. And we've really got to start there to bring that awareness out to people that, there's not a stigma to it. There isn't. And I know, I grew up big Italian family, grandfather World War I, my dad World War II, those old, 100% Italian. They didn't talk about the war.
Right.
They wouldn't, they wouldn't do it. Yeah. You gotta, I gotta believe there's some PTSD there. Never would talk about it. My grandfather would make fun of because he got shot. He was in the infantry in World War I, for God's sakes. He had just come to this country legally, by the way. Oh, did I say that too? He got shot in the arm. It went in here and out here, and he had the scars, and that's the only. And he would just joke about it, make jokes, but never fully talk about it. And that's what I learned growing up. I'm a man, right? You don't share your feelings. That's not what you're supposed to do. We got to break that down. And I believe, facing death again now for the third time, because I was really close to death both times before. I'm not gonna this time though, but I'm gonna kick its butt again. But you change your attitude about things. You understand your mortality. We're all gonna die. I could get hit, walking across the street. So you got to make peace with it, which I have. I certainly plan on beating my mother's age she was 99, and I plan on doing that. So, but it's my thing now, being new to all this is, and this is, you have no idea, Kelly, what this is doing for me inside right now, because I have been longing to find the path to be able to give back, because I've had so much help. And I need to be able to do things like this and hopefully touch somebody out there, right? Hopefully. So.
Yeah, thank you. You just reminded me also what I was going to say about Karen's was the physical versus the mental, and how we still in this space, like you were saying, in 2024, we oftentimes, like, hope and recovery are those things that we talk about when we break our arm, right? We're going to have a cast. We probably have physical therapy. We have a timeline as to when it might get better. But then when we think about a mental health challenge, that's part of the conversation that we miss the most, because people don't know what to say. They don't know how to help somebody. They're like, it's like deer in the headlights, like, did you just tell me that? Like, how am I supposed to respond? So that's why I love, especially with my show, I love having these tough conversations, because it's important to know that you can support somebody. You could even not have any idea how to do it, and you're still supporting them, right? Like, just being there, having that presence with them, like having us together in this room. And then, so I have two questions. So we're going to go probably round robin again. And I am only going to ask this because it is something, and I don't want to go like full religious. Like, that's not the whole point at all by any means. But the conversation that often comes up, especially in the mental health space, is a lot of people like to say, I'll pray for you. Or they will say, like, other words, like, I always hear, I'm so sorry for your loss. And for me, I don't like hearing that, because it's not your fault that my sister died, right? But I also have to acknowledge and receive that you are trying to support me the best that you know how to, but I don't need you to say sorry. It could be like, oh man, that sucks. Like, literally, like, it sucks.
Yeah.
The other part of that is, and again, not going full religious, like, that's not the intention here by any means. We kind of want to stay away a little bit from that, but I want to just understand, like, when people say, and I don't know if it's okay, these are the words that are popping into my head, but, and this may not be right, but maybe a cop out in a way, because we don't know how to have the conversations of, how can I support you? What can I do? How can I be here for you? And I want to just kind of open that up to all of you, and you may have a different take on it. I was born and raised in a religious family. I am no longer practicing. I am spiritual in nature, in human. I have my beliefs, and I also, so a little twofold of that, your thought process around like when people say, I'll pray for you, or like that, hey, I'm sorry about, when it's not really like theirs to hold. And whoever wants to chime in first, but again, we're not going to go like super religious, but I just want to hear kind of your thought process around that.
I can say, Kelly, for me, the phrase "I'm sorry for your loss" insinuates I did something to offend you. So for me, that phrase, hearing it, it's like nails to a chalkboard for me. I would rather someone tell me, I don't know what to say, but I'm here for you. How can I support you?
Bingo.
Or I would rather them say, I don't know what to say. I always tell people when I hear that they've experienced a transition, I don't say death. Death doesn't make sense to me. Loss equates to transition for me, because in my mind, it is a transition. And so when someone tells me that they've experienced the transition of a parent, a pet, they've, changed from corporate to entrepreneur, I always tell them, I'm sending my love your way. And I will say to them, I am praying for you. But the thing with me is I make sure in my calendar, I make sure that I circle back to them every couple weeks. See, with these different phrases that we regurgitate, they need to have real intention behind them. Not what you're alluding to, Kelly, where it's a cop out. What's the real intention? Either you gonna be there for me or you not. It's that simple. And I think a lot of people are too afraid to truly say that they don't want to take on your hurt or take on the time to be with you because they're dealing with their own stuff. To what you said, Karen, I know people want to help. People truly do. But we have to be realistic that not everybody can hold our heavy grief, hold our heavy mental wellness obstacles, because they've yet to deal with their own. So how can they really hold space for us when they've yet to address or confront their own challenges in their life? So I think, to the point, I get really passionate about this stuff. So I think, to the point you're making, Kelly, when it comes to also religion and faith, I'm also someone who's very spiritual, and I'm also ordained. And one of the things that I talk about a lot in my grief groups on Saturday is how the God of your understanding will guide you in the right way, right? You'll get the right people in your life to help you. At the same time, you have to kind of cut out the noise. And what I mean by the noise is your family, your friends. A lot of times when you experience a transition or a loss or whatever, they don't know how to always respond or hold space for you. And that's okay, right? I want to really allude to the fact that even in my own family right now, I love them, but I understand that because my relationship with my mom was different to what their relationship is, our grief and our way of processing it is going to be different. And so also our relationship dynamic is going to change. And so I think, to the main point that I'm getting to, is that when it comes to these Scotch tape special, what I like to call phrases, we have to really, as people who are aware, we get to choose how we respond, how we react, and how we change the narrative, not only for ourselves, but other people around us, so they can see, oh, I have been one who regurgitated this. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm praying for you. Rest in peace. How can I make it different? And then we get to also choose how we tell people to support us. A lot of times we don't even know how to support ourselves. Grief has been my best teacher. Through these last 2 years, I've learned things that I don't like. I've learned things that I do like. Funny story, y'all, real quick. When my mom transitioned, somebody mailed me not a bouquet of flowers, a bouquet of Slim Jims to make sure that I ate every day. Yes, a bouquet of Slim Jims. And right, because a lot of times when you're grieving, you're not hungry, you don't have a taste for anything, you feel completely numb. Kelly, to your point about the fog, right? And so for me, that thought, even though at the time I was like, what the heck, I'm getting Slim Jims in the mail. I love Slim Jims, by the way. But to me, it was that thought. It was this person thinking outside the box to remind me, hey, I'm thinking of you. Here's a way to see this differently.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And we're gonna go to a quick sponsor break. I know I'm cutting the rest of you off really quickly, but I knew, Portia, that might be something that, I mean, I know you're so passionate in that lane, but I'm gonna come back to all of you once we come back from this quick sponsor break. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, it's Portia Booker, and I'm your host of the Grief Grand Tour Show. Join me every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Vitality Network right here on E360 TV.
Hi, Laura Cross, your host for Mindful Mondays every Monday at 1 p.m. Central Time, where you can embark on a transformative journey of self-care and ultimate happiness. Tune in to the Voyage to Vitality channel on the Achieve TV network. Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross. Be there, be mindful, and join us on E360 TV.
Hi everyone, I am Sinead from Brador. I'm from Johannesburg, South Africa. Please join me in my Power Hour every Sunday, 12 o'clock Pacific Standard Time on E360 TV. Mwah!
Like that. We're back. I lost my camera there for a minute. That was pretty funny in the background. You know, live TV, it happens. Things happen and you just have to keep going on. So, before we went to the quick sponsored break, I know I left it like kind of open for all of you, but the question that I had brought up is, what is your thought process around when people come to you and say, I'm sorry for your loss, or I'll pray for you? Maybe you're talking about like a challenge that is coming up, whatever it might be, right? Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And they say, I'll pray for you. And again, we're not going like full religious, but I'm just curious, like, what is the thought process that comes up for you as people say that? So whoever wants to chime in.
I think people just say what they know to say.
Yeah.
Right? Just
How they're,
you know, I understand, Portia, what you mean when, or what you say, that when it kind of like on a chalkboard, I get it, because number one, I post some of this stuff on Facebook all the time, and I'll even say, look, I'm not looking for anybody's sympathy whatsoever. If you pray, if you send positive thoughts, white light, I don't care what it is you do, send it. And that, and I can feel that. And I think the key for myself and I, for the healing process is you got to get out of your brain, because your brain is going to slow you down. I mean, it won't shut off. You've got to shut it off. Get out of your brain, get into your mind. That's right. Where the spiritual healing is. That's where it comes from. And, there's a couple things. We are what we eat, right? That's what they say. So think about that. And it's true. We are what we eat. And I believe so much in the power of the mind and the body to be able to heal itself. They've told me this is just so beautiful, right? I have less than a 10% chance of a cure. And I'm like, oh, gee, that's great. Then why am I doing any of this, right? Why am I going through this stuff again? And, which I wish I didn't have to, but I also know that there are other things out there that I can do. And that's what I plan on doing. Don't tell me I've got a less than 10% chance. Are you kidding me?
No.
Do you understand who you're talking to? Forget about it. You're wrong. So
Yeah, don't always fall for that, Sam. That's such a long story. I have that because I was supposed to be gone 2 years ago and I'm still here with a brain aneurysm. So, and my chances were 0. And so here we are, 5 coils and 2 stents later. So never give up. And I learned that in oncology. Don't ever say, it's between you. I always say I always say this to my doctors. He was just stunned that I made it. And I go, well, there's you, and then there's me, and then there's my God. And my God decided it wasn't my day. So I feel that if you keep whatever your God is, whatever your belief is, whatever your spiritual being is where you're at. And to kind of address Kelly's question on how I look on death, I look at it in so many different levels. First off, it's where you grew up. How were you raised? Where I was raised, you took food. I mean, when someone passed away, there's 60 casseroles show up. And so, and people come in and visit, and they visited about the memories they had, and they visited about the beautiful things that they had shared with that person. Then there's the others where some people I worked in a nursing home for years, and I ran a nursing home. Okay, there was some that didn't have family. And so when they went, it was a pine box, nobody said a word to them. So I think when you have to address this, I think the way I address it is, okay, like my mother had schizophrenia. We were in a small farm town. Everybody knew. They quoted her crazy, right? They didn't let their little kids come play with us when we grew up and everything. So when she committed suicide, half the church was full of people just that were there to see how we were. They were the looky-loos. So you got the looky-loos with death. I mean, you got to look at it all. Then you got the ones that really were there for her. And then there was the ones that where basically where I think a lot of it stems, the good, the bad, and the ugly, is fear. The reason some people have a hard time addressing death is because they fear it themselves. And, that's something that nobody wants to talk about. Nobody wants to say anything. And Portia, I'm so sorry for your parents leaving you. I know that they left the best thing on this earth, and that was you. I mean, the best thing they did was you. So I don't like that word, sorry for your loss, either. I think there needs to be better wording, but that was trained to us. Look how many of us know that saying. Who doesn't know that saying? I mean, you get on Facebook and somehow that's said 5,000 times a day to somebody. Yeah. And it's like, we're just repetition after all these years of sorry for your loss. That's all anybody seems to be able to say. So I think it's educating ourselves and our children. If it doesn't come, it's who are you in charge of that you can retrain. So I've been retraining my grandchildren because I know they're not going to get retrained out there on death. Nobody's going to talk about it. So I retrain them on, well, if you didn't know that person, what is something neat you could say? And even if you don't say it to that person, what's something neat you could say to a prayer for them? Yeah. And so I try to tell them about the joy, the fact that everybody walks this earth and is gone at a different time. And everybody's step is different. And try to find the beauty, even if a child's only been here one day. Find the beauty in life. And I always say, celebrate the fact that they got here. Celebrate the fact that they walked this earth for a little while, however long that was. And then you also, on the humorous side, we can make light of it. If you make, back where I'm from, if you make it to 70, damn, you lived a good life. See you later. I mean, doctors don't even want to see you. If you got an ache or an ailment, where my sister works in the medical field in that little tiny town, population 500, if you come in after 70, they go, well, you're 71, you did pretty good. I mean, they got you in the casket before you even there's no living. And they live to 90, but they've been talking about death for 20 years. So some people have to face their doctor and talk about the end of life for 20 years before they're gone. So I think it's the whole structure of fear. It's just like mental health, Kelly. I think mental illness, mental health, mental awareness, whatever it is, if it's not comfortable to talk about, then some people have a real hard time with all of it. So I think it's called being human.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm going to let Drew chime in too.
Yes.
But I love having other people's perspective, right? Because sometimes, like Portia said, it can be like nails on the chalkboard. But when you have these conversations, then you start to know other people's perspective, which, I'm open to shifting how I react to what is said. And so I love this conversation. And Drew, I wanted to have you chime in also.
Well, gosh, I love what everything has been said. And Portia, I'm glad you let us off, because that feels like it's your lane so much. And I have been one of those people, I'm sorry for your loss kind of people. And I have done a little research of like, what are some different things I can do, and kind of reach into myself a little more. And instead of like, can I bring you a casserole? I bring a casserole. I don't ask, I show up. And another thing I've learned and I've found, and just in the last few years, is if someone close to me is lost or has someone transition, I ask them, tell me a story about them. Tell me about your mom. I would love to know who she was like. And, and that builds that friendship even more. And, but I had to be taught that. But even when I've gone through, and even just really hard times, I know people kind of turn away because it's the easier thing to do. And I've done that before with loved ones. I'm like, if I don't know the perfect thing to say, I'm not going to say it. And, I've learned that, like, gosh, even if you're trying, I talk about a lot, and I believe in the power of prayer, and that's just me. But I also talk a lot to people about, you're on my heart, or your family's on my heart today. And that's just, if they're in my mind and in my heart, I make sure I reach out to them, just like, I've got you today. I'm thinking about you. I love you. So That's my take. But I had to be taught. And so I'm glad there's people like Portia out there, and some great articles where I'm like, oh, I could just switch this up, because I want to do right. I want to honor the process.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's all about intention, right? Like, what is the intention that we bring to the conversation? And also, I know I talk about this too, because the sentence or the phrase we hear all the time is, you're not alone. But if you truly have the intention behind that of you're really not alone, you can call me anytime. I know Drew and we talk often, but then like she said, she needed me to take off my nonprofit hat and put on my friend hat. And it's you're one of those people that I will always answer my phone, and including all of you, if you need anything, right? If I'm not able at that moment, I shoot off a text message and say, hey, I'm on a call. I'll call you as soon as I can. But there's certain people that come into your life that you have and put so much more intention behind really making those connections and offering the help that maybe they need. And so I think it's all the intention behind it. And if you truly want to understand somebody, what they're going through, a great phrase to say is, hey, I don't know how to support you. I'm not really sure what you're going through, but I can be here if you'd like me to listen, or would you like me to brainstorm solutions? I don't know where to go. Let's just be humans, right? And make that connection. And sometimes the only thing people need is somebody to sit with them, somebody to just be there for them, allow you the space to say whatever it is that they need to say, and then not be judged or fixed for it. That's a bigger thing. Is I think as humans, we're like, I want to fix you. At least for me, like I am a care person, and I love sending. Okay, so my sister, and actually, if I panned a little bit this way, you would see all my Care Bears. But my sister loved Care Bears, and so I love sending out the like Care Bear, their power source. That's my healing power when I send it out to people on Facebook. So we have a couple other guests that are going to be joining us for this second hour as we go into the special. I know Jason is on here, and then Dana should be popping in here shortly too. So I'm going to bring Jason to the stage. Jason, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey guys, how are you?
Awesome. So I would love for you to share a little bit about, and we're doing this Hollywood Square Brady Bunch style. And I know Jason has been on my show in the past. He actually was here last year also on the Mental Health Action Day. We were lucky enough to watch his film, but I'm going to let him share a little bit about himself and his story and what he does specifically.
Well, thank you, Kelly. Everyone's great to see you. Thanks for having me back. For those of you who don't know my story, I lost my son Ryan to suicide 6 years ago, and he had just turned 14. And for us, like most people or a lot of people, we didn't see any signs, so we didn't see it coming, didn't know it was happening. And he went really out of his way to hide his depression and sadness from us. And so having 4 kids and him being the youngest and thinking, our life was perfect, definitely threw us for quite a change. So when that happened, Ryan had left me a note. I was going through his drawers and things, and what you do, I guess, just keep walking back in the room. Anyways, he wrote me a note that said, "Tell my story." And so that's what I've been doing. Sorry, it'll take me a minute to get started. So I did a TEDx talk right out of the gate. He passed away in March. I did a TEDx talk in September, which is pretty raw. You can see all this on tellmystory.org, by the way. And then we did another TEDx talk, did a movie called Tell My Story that you can see on Amazon and other streaming services. And that movie is called Tell My Story. And really, in the beginning, I thought I was going to change the whole world and end teen suicide. I was very arrogant and angry. And, I've kind of settled into my own self and realized that that's not what I'm going to do, because it's not really going to happen that way. But I've realized where my place is in this whole universe is to really help parents understand that there's just not enough therapists and doctors and psychiatrists and professionals in the world to help all this. And the problem is so large that parents really need to own their children's mental health the way we own our children's physical health. We need to be the ones to be there to help, to support, to guide, not to judge, but to be there to really take the reins with our kids. And it's hard because we didn't ever think we'd probably have to do that. When we said we're going to have kids, we thought, they're going to get sick, this, we'll have to deal with that. But no one really told us that mental health was a serious issue when it comes to raising kids. So my journey in life now is to try and I'm doing this with my good friend here, Dana, who runs our operations at Tell My Story. And we're just trying to help parents understand. So we have a movie called What I Wish My Parents Knew, which is in schools. It's been shown probably in about 100 different schools and churches this year. And that's a parent movie that has parents seeing actual kids speaking about their mental health with a little bit of me at the end to say, okay, here's what you kind of heard and here's what you can go do. And then we have a mental health professional come in and actually talk about what they saw and talk about local resources. And that's what we try to do right now, is just try to get parents to understand where this is. So, we speak a fair bit. We have the movie and we have other things going on right now as well. So does that help, Kelly?
Yeah, thank you for coming back on this year. And I have seen the film. I actually took it into one of the charter schools in Colorado. So I was lucky enough to be able to help share that message. And we've stayed in contact since then.
Absolutely.
And I know, I mean, mental health for youth specifically is something that we don't talk about enough. And it is very, very important because I know you're in California, but in Colorado, suicide is actually the first leading cause of death for ages 10 to 14. And that's not okay. I'm not okay with that stat. I do know that it is starting to shift a little bit because as we have these conversations, as we're able to have multiple nonprofits across the country and just people in general that are really honing in on the message of youth mental health is important, and parents don't always know what they're doing. So having some resources for us is really, really great. We can start to make that shift, and it hasn't statistically changed yet, but I think it is truly coming. So that's the great part, is that although it doesn't feel like it's there yet, I think that we are starting to make some sort of movement that way. And I would love, Dana, I know I was like, you got to come on too. So Dana, share a little bit about yourself and then your story and why you got involved with Tell My Story.
Well, I was introduced to Jay by a personal friend who knows my family's journey, my kids' journey. I've lost 3 friends to suicide personally, and my son lost his college roommate his junior year at a small private school in Michigan, and it happened right behind his dorm. They are on the railroad tracks, and it impacted the entire team, the entire school. It's a very small school. It's one of the hardest things that I've ever had to walk with, and my son 4 years later still, is walking with that pain. And my daughter, when she was 15, her good friend died the night before her 16th birthday of suicide. So it's impacted us in every capacity in that way. And I just said, I no more. I don't know what else to do. And I teach yoga, I teach mindfulness, that, I work in schools. And then I was introduced to Jay, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is a way to cast a really big net with a man who has a beautiful heart and a message that I resound with. And so it's been my honor and privilege every day to work with Jay and to share Ryan's story in a way that honors his life and also helps other people know that they're not alone in their struggle. And so through being able to show the film, connect with kids, youth, Jay and I have done these youth panels and youth summits, and just, I could tell you stories all day long, but the people that we've been able to connect with, it's very difficult, but it's very beautiful. And on the end of it, everyone feels a little bit more connected, a little bit less lonely, and very much filled with a sense of hope that together we can make strides forward. So I've been with the company and with Jay and with this message for about a little bit over a year and a half. And like you said, we roughly have shown this film about 100 times plus. And what we found are the common denominators at the end during the Q&A, the parents say, or the adults, the teachers, it's really hard to get them to talk to me. And then we ask the kids and, their panels, do you ever talk to anybody? I'm not going to tell my parents for sure. Like, I'm not going to tell my parents. And we were both like, huh. And it wasn't just a one-off. So we thought, what are we going to do? Jay added 2 brilliant endings. We have a youth film that's 30 minutes long. And then we have the adult parent film that's 45 minutes long. And he does a teaching to the parents. Parents, this is what you might want to know about your kids. Kids, this is what you might want to know about your parents. And it's lovely. He tells it very beautifully. He gives people concrete ideas that they can leave our time together feeling a bit more resourced. But to both of us, we are always asking the question, well, what else? How else can we serve? How else can we connect? How else can we make the world better? And so we came up with a card game called the Tell My Story card game. It's a resource for parents, for counselors, teachers, therapists. It's written in the form of a family game, but you can adapt it in any capacity. We could play it right here and we would learn a lot about each other, feel really close really quickly. But it's 100 games, 3 levels, starts with easier questions that on-ramp to the more vulnerable questions where you get to learn and build. We call it heartfelt connection and communication because it's that ongoing sense of trust that you can share your heart, share your story with another, and it's held tenderly. So we've seen it with so much success in all the different places. Right now, we've been piloting it since December, and we're really finding great success. And we just are on the second iteration that's actually arriving this week. So it's very exciting.
That's awesome. And I know, I mean, you sent me some cards and I looked through them and I'm like, oh my gosh. So there's been lots going through my head, like how we can collaborate and like help in Colorado and all the things. So, but thank you first and foremost for jumping back on this year and also sharing your story again. What we're kind of doing is asking questions, talking openly about mental health. And really, I want to kind of shift a little bit. So we're going to talk a little bit about youth in general, because all of us are really in this space of youth and understanding ourselves and others. And I want to just kind of shift a little bit. And the question that popped into my head was, as a younger version of yourselves, what would have been really helpful for you as a youth? And I know that most of us, when we grew up, it was a much different time than it is today. But what is something that would have been helpful for you? But then also fast forwarding, what is something that you have learned that has been helpful for, or is helpful for youth today? And I'm going to start with Sam, actually.
Repeat the question again.
Yep. So as you were younger, what would have been something as related to the mental health space? I know you already talked about the mentality of an Italian family, that it was like, suck it up, get over it. But what other than that would have been helpful as you were growing up? And then what have you learned that might be helpful for youth today?
I think back then, like I said, we didn't communicate. So if there was a forum or something that I could have, read about to know, because I had never been taught that you're supposed to share, to get it out. I never was taught, if you don't, what can follow as far as the mental decline. And I think, as I've gotten older, for me, just, being in the profession I was in, most of my career, just being around people, business development, meeting new people all the time, really learning how to read people, how to ask questions, which is something that I didn't know back as a child. Ask questions. People want to talk about themselves, and if you ask the right questions, they will. So yeah, I think that's been helpful as I've gotten older too.
Nice. All right, I'm gonna go to Portia.
So I'm glad you asked this, Kelly, because the very thing that comes to my mind right now is I wish when I was younger, struggling with my own mental health, I wish I would have known that praying it away wasn't the only answer. Because that, and you figure I had older parents. So both of my parents, if they were still around today, my mom would have been 71 and my dad would have been 72. And so you figure, let's look at that time. I was born in 1991. So you figure mental health wasn't talked about the way that it is now. It was, you go to church, you speak to the God of your understanding about it, out of sight, out of mind. Well, I wish I would have known that there was another avenue, that I had other options to talk about my mental health. Now, I have to say, I give a shout out to my 9th grade English teacher, Mr. Mike Lowell, because he was the one that really took me under his wing and gave me the opportunity to express my grief, my mental health through writing, through journaling. So that came later on. And so I think for me, if I was younger Portia back then today, I would have told her that there's other avenues to speak about your mental health and that whole thing outside of just praying it away. What I hope for youth today is I hope that they recognize the abundance of resources they have, number one. Number two, the amount of community they can build all over the world. Because a lot of times when we're in schools, we don't always relate to the people in our classroom. I wish that I would have had access to the internet the way that they do now, where I could have connected with somebody across the world who sees the world the way that I do, who sees life the way that I do, and can talk to them. I wish I would have had that back then. But I hope that the newer generation understands how to leverage their resources, number one. Number two, recognize that there is an abundance of connections and community. And number three, I'm going to just say it, put the phone down. Put the phone down. Because a lot of times being on your phone and you're scrolling through social media, whether it's Instagram, most of them are on Instagram and TikTok, you can come across a fun little reel that's a bunch of cats dancing on a pole. And then you come across one where there's train derailments and people are being killed. So it's like, put the phone down. Really learn to be in connection with people in real time. And then also, too, I will say this as a last thing for me, don't be afraid to reach out to somebody, because I think a lot of times youth feel intimidated at times to reach out. And then us as adults, we need to meet them where they're at. If their love language is through text messaging, great. And to your point, Sam, inquire, right? Well, tell me more. Can you elaborate more on what this, GTFO means? I'm going to put it PG for here, but you get where I'm going, right? Because they use all these different useful or colorful idioms that we don't always know. I have to look a lot of them up even for me. So I think we have a responsibility to also meet them where they're at, to help them and others around them.
Love that. All right, I'm going to go to you, Jason.
All right. Well, Kelly, I say when you first said that, the first thing that popped in my mind was, God, if I had an iPhone 40 years ago, I'd be ruling the world now. So that was my first reaction, which, I'll just tell you what first came to my mind. But as I actually thought about it, I wish I had figured out how to have a better relationship with my parents. Because to me, my parents back then, 40, 50 years ago, they were just the people who were telling me what to do. And I had a roof over my head. And if I needed money, that's where I'd go. Right. So that's what they were to me. They give me a hard time about doing this, that, and the other thing, but I didn't necessarily have that connection. I loved them and we would spend time together kind of, but there were no deep conversations about what I wanted to do with my life, where I was, what I was doing, how I felt. That wasn't something that happened when I was growing up. And I think that was just kind of the generation we were, right? We just didn't happen that way. And I wish I had known that I had the power to start that conversation. It wasn't just them, but I didn't know. Right. So when I look back, I look at kids now, I'm going, it's the same thing. You may be feeling like your parents, sorry, there's a dog in the background there. You may be feeling that, your parents are just these people who raised you and give you a hard time when they give you a hard time, and they want you to get your grades, and then they're a source of cash when you need some cash, but you don't have a relationship with them. And I just want to encourage you to say that relationship's not just a one-way street. If you're waiting for them to come to you and say, we need a relationship that's better than the one we have, you're giving them too much credit, because maybe they don't know how to start it. Right? You can do it as well. You can go to them and say, wow, I want to know you better. I want you to know me better. Let's figure this out. Because as a guy who's lost both his parents at this point, I wish I had that.
It just makes me think. So I have a lot of really open conversations with my 8-year-old going on 9-year-old. And I've had people say, why do you even talk to your kid about that? Right. I mean, my my son knows what I do with my nonprofit, and he's very helpful in all the things that we do. And we've had lots of conversations that I would have never imagined that I would have with an 8-year-old. But I love that you pointed that out, Jason, is that we don't always, like, as parents, I don't always know everything about my kid and vice versa. And so if we can have those open conversations and actually take the time and the space to do that, that's huge. So thank you for sharing. I'm going to go to Drew.
Wow. The first thing that came to mind is, you know, and it's a generational thing. My parents, you know, similar to Jason's, my dad was a pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of guy. You know, you're feeling sad, just figure it out. And interestingly enough, both my brother and I have had mental health struggles as adolescents, as well as in our early adulthood. So I think they've learned more. But as you know, as a professional today and what I do and talk to a lot of parents, we talk a lot about mental health and how important it is. And there's still parents out there like that kind of feel like, you know, they're going to figure it out. And it's like, you know, sometimes our kids need some additional help. And as parents, we don't have all the answers. We don't have all the tools, and it's quite all right. I have a daughter who has some mental health struggles, and similar to Kelly, we have some very open and honest conversations about all kinds of things: depression, anxiety, suicide ideation, you know, and what that looks like and how we can talk about it, and we can rate things. And we have tools that I can help her if she is feeling anxious. So, you know, I'm grateful that I can share some of those things with the parents that we work with too, because it has to be an open conversation. Bullying and mental health go hand in hand, unfortunately. And I think that's why Kelly and I have been divinely, you know, intertwined over the last few years. So, you know, that's what I feel like that, you know, I can bring today, and what our need, you know, we need to keep educating our parents out there that it is okay. Not being okay is quite okay. And just, you know, we need to get them the help and the support they need.
Yeah. And I also want to on my last episode that I did, we kind of flipped that one on its head too, of it's okay to not be okay. It's also okay to be okay, right? Like, don't get yourself stuck in this. It's okay for me to not be okay. It's also okay for you to be okay. So having those conversations, and one of my guests from several back threw that at me, and I was like, oh, wow, that's so true. Sometimes we get stuck in these cycles of it's okay to not be okay, but it's also okay to be okay. So how can we promote that positive mental wellness in ourselves and in our kids? And so now I'm going to go over to Karen.
Hi, welcome, Jason and Dana. It's nice to see you. As you know, you guys are coming in a little bit later, but my mother had schizophrenia, so I have coming from that side of the tracks. But I will tell you, as a child that has mental illness in the home, so I'll go from that aspect, because that's what I think is very, there's millions of children out there that have that. Back in my day, I would have gave anything if someone would have explained it to me, because kids are just assumed they're just floating around the house, everything, but nobody's taking the time to sit down and explain to them what's going on. I would have gave anything, because kids are resilient. Don't second guess them. They at 10 years old, at 9 years old, at 7 years old, they're starting to understand. So you need, I think back in that day, I wish somebody would have sat down with me. I wish also back in my day that it would have been okay for parents to walk in. I think today, as far as that, I'll push it forward. Oh, to finish on my time, one thing that I wish, I didn't want another mother. Don't get me wrong. I didn't want another mother. I had my mom and dad, but I loved when someone would stop and take me for just a dish of ice cream. Give that child a little bit of normalcy, just a little bit of break. They just want a break, you know, and things in their home might not be your perfect home. There might be addiction going on and stuff in their home. They just want a little bit of a break. They don't want new parents. Don't ever assume that they want a new parent. Now to jump forward, so Jason, my team's out in California that we're developing programs and solutions for children right now. We have research that show we're asking the questions. And so Portia, to answer your question about putting the phone down, they don't, that ship sailed. So the kids go, I'm not putting my phone down. You know, they go, tell me on the phone. So, you know, way down the road, down my future, I'm hoping that when we get all done, that there's actually apps on the phone. So I'm trying to come to their terms. I'm going to put it right in their face instead of Googling. I hope they hit that app. You've got about 3 seconds now to hold a child because of TikTok and everything else that's going on. It's a proven fact that you've got 3 seconds to hold them. So when they're clicking, you've got to reach them really quickly to grab their attention. The one thing that people need to realize, they always say they blame social media. That's what our kids are going to hell because of social media. Well, there's one thing that we have found when we talk to these children. They're still human. They have not lost that feeling of being human. They still experience fear. They still experience love. They still feel inadequate at sports. They feel challenged. They're feeling all these feelings that I think society's telling them, well, go on social media and find your answers there. There's got to be better solutions for our children because they want, this is what they say to me when I speak to them. I said, what do I do? They go, well, ask us the right question and we'll tell you. And they want to talk to you. So you have to ask children nowadays the right answer, the right questions. For parents right now, I can make it on the humorous side or I can go on the serious side. If I've got parents in the room, I go, yes, the kids have the phone. I've given them a phone at 7. I tell them who's paying for that phone. And I stop for a minute. I said, if you stop paying for that phone, there's actually a high school in Grand Island, Nebraska right now that is required. Every child does not have a phone at school. All their grades are going up. Their social environment's going up. Their interaction with each other is going up. Suicide actually is dropping in that percentage in that area. So, you know, I take suicide very seriously. My mother committed suicide. I've seen it. And I have a lot of friends that have lost children. I think that we have to remember that we're still in charge. They say we can't back up, but we may not be able to back up, but we can change some things. And I think by giving, and I'll end there, I think we have to go where they're at. And if that's the phone, then that's the phone. I don't want to wait 20 years. I don't have 20 years. I'm 66 years old. I don't have 20 years to try to figure out how am I going to get to these children. So we're trying to go right now to where they're at. And on the last note, I'll tell you what we're trying to get through is when parents come into the school and there's a kid and they're bringing their kids in kindergarten, first grade, whatever. We're trying to get it so there's a box that they can check if there's mental illness in the home, if there's addiction in the home. So if these teachers are aware of this child coming into their environment that might not have the perfect life. And then the ones that are not feeling good, can they check a box? Like, can a 10-year-old come in and check a box saying, I don't feel real great today? And there's one thing that everybody's leaving in the box. We're losing teachers by droves. Teachers are leaving like flies. And our mission now is how do we hold the teacher, help the child, and all that. So it's a real big thing, but I don't think it's unattainable. I really don't. And I think, look at all of us right here today. If there's even one more person, every person's got, we can all give back. And then we're quite a village. And I think it is gaining ground. I think it is. I have a lot of MDs on my team and we are gaining ground. Slowly, but surely we are saving children. So that's where I'm at with that.
Love that. And I know, Karen, how passionate you are about helping youth. And there's so much goodness in that. But I'm going to go over to Dana and have her respond also.
Wow, these are amazing stories, and when we reflect upon our own childhoods, it can really bring up a lot. And for me, I'm a mom. My daughter is graduating this Saturday from Sonoma State. She's 23. My parents had me at 19 and 20, and the idea that my daughter would have a daughter right now astounds me. My daughter's very capable, but I didn't know I was being raised by children as a child. I just knew that my mom was struggling and my dad was pretty tough. And I was raised by achievement and following the rules. And Portia, like you, the church defined kind of the parameters of how I was good or how I was bad. And so if I was lost, the only thing I could do was like pray up at a crucifix that would make me cry because I'm like, this person died for me? This is horrible. Like I was, as a child, I didn't know what to think or how to feel. And then the fact I had to go sit in a box and tell somebody what I did wrong, I was like, I don't understand. And it made me very afraid all the time. And so I was constantly looking outside of myself for affirmation, which created a culture in myself of perfection, overachievement. I was the firstborn and the first daughter of 28 grandkids. So I was set up for a Catholic family of guilt. We hide our struggles. And so that was hard as a young person. And I didn't realize I struggled with what is now understood as like a mental health challenge because I had eating disorders. And so that's how I had control. And my family didn't understand how to meet me necessarily in that. They constantly gave me over to these authorities that helped, but it was very challenging. And what I wanted to know that I didn't know was that I was good just as I was. I wasn't born flawed or bad. And that's something I didn't realize till I was 30. And someone told me one time in a yoga class, "You're good just as you are." I was like, how's that possible? What? This is amazing. Like I knew, but I didn't ever feel it. And so what I hope for our young people, everything that we're all doing and talking about is really beautiful. I just, as a young person, didn't feel like I was good because there was nobody who was looking at me in my eye, just saying, I see you and I see you struggling instead of trying to fix it. And so, I know with our young people today, a sense of, I see you and I know everyone's struggling, and to just have them have that acknowledgement. Um, because as parents, we know it's hard. We get stressed, we get overwhelmed. I was raised by kids, like I give my parents all the compassion. They did the best with they could with what they had. And I wasn't easy. But the kids today, it's a different set of circumstances, but we're all human. And we want to feel good about who we are and know that we are internally beautiful. And so creating that communication and conversation in any capacity for me has been a mission since I understood that I didn't fall from something. I am good. And so that's, I believe, a really internal message too. And we're told to go external, to go to the phone, to, go to achievement, particularly achievement culture is challenging because what do you have to complain about? You have great grades and you're the captain of this or the president of that, and you got into this school. The pressures on both ends are very challenging. So I think kind of equalizing the playing field, saying we're all human. The pandemic did that very well for us. It put us all on the same footing, but we don't all function from that place. And so we're still suffering from the impacts of what that did. And so I think maybe just looking at each other and saying, I see you and you're good. Even if you don't communicate it with your words, but you communicate it with your heart, that truly, I believe, can heal young people today.
I love that. Thank you for sharing also. And I just love this conversation that we're having. We are going to go to one more quick sponsored break, but once we come back, we're going to have a little bit of fun because we have talked about some pretty serious conversations, which are really, really important. But I also want to kind of shift into this mental health action day to give people action, what they can do specifically for their mental health. And we all know that there are lots of really great resources and people out there. So once we come back from this quick sponsored break, we'll jump into that. I lost my middle sister, Carrie, to a completed suicide on February 20th, 2017.
My story, Oliver, it isn't unique. I am a domestic violence survivor and a recovering addict. For 14 years, I was in active addiction. And because of Kelli and the work that she does and the opportunity to have my voice heard, I was able to stay clean and sober and have hit a year. I'm still here. And if it wasn't for Kelli answering my call the day that I thought I was going to take my life.
Curious, and I know that I've heard a lot in the BIPOC community, it is very hush hush. It's like one of those things that you don't talk about. Like, you literally feel like it's not a conversation you can have. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
First, shout out to Kelli, because I'm glad that she asked the question. I researched you before I went on your show, and I saw how real and authentic you were. And I just appreciate the question, because it is different, and we have to have tough, courageous conversations. So yes, I always say I'm a triple diversity threat. I'm a Black woman with multiple disabilities. Now, I'm not really a threat, but to other people, I may be, because people fear the unknown and what they're uncomfortable with.
Kelli's passionate commitment to mental health awareness is a beautiful thing. It's clear in her social media posts, it's clear in the resources that she puts together, in the activities that she provides, her collaboration with organizations, and the consistent way that she continues to deliver a message, encouraging people to understand that they can share openly and to break the stigma around mental health. Kelli's topics cover children and adults, talk about things that we can do as a community, things that we can do individually, and her website is packed with information and resources and all kinds of contacts that you can use to reach out, whether you're dealing with something yourself or you're looking to help somebody else who is struggling. I encourage you to check it out.
Hi, I'm Julianne Meyer, the host of Own Your Wellness, and you can watch my show on Mondays and Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. Pacific on Achieve TV right here on E360 TV. Remember, there's more to health and wellness than broccoli and burpees.
I'm Dr. Audrey Tang, a chartered psychologist, and on my show, Mental Health Matters, we take a deep dive into all things mental health and well-being with the experts. So join us at 8 a.m. PST on Thursdays on the Fresh Takes channel, because mental health matters on E360 TV.
My name is Adriana Morrison, host of the Health Revolution TV show. Join us Tuesdays and Thursdays live, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where our mission is simple: engaging conversations, elevating health and wellness, empowering transformation. Right here on the Achieve TV channel on E360 TV.
And like that, we're back. Gotta add everybody to the Hollywood squares. Right. Well, we have been having an amazing conversation. Like, I'm so blessed to have all of you incredible people in my life and having connections. I specifically chose all of you for this special today because one, you are all incredible humans. You all have a story to share, and you have all been impacted in some sort of way as related to mental health. I also know that you all are experts in this area, and we all have a story to share, and we also have things that we could offer to the audience for them to help their mental wellness. So I want to shift a little bit into the fun side of how on this day, which is again, Mental Health Action Day, it is a day for us to first and foremost bring awareness to our mental health, but also having that action behind how we can help our mental health and our wellness. So whomever would like to chime in first, what is something that you would like to offer that is, or maybe has been helpful for you in the past that you think might be helpful for somebody else? Or what is something fun that you like to do for your mental wellness?
I can go. So, Kelli, I like to be spontaneous. I'm a big kid. I tell everybody that. So, a couple weeks ago, my friend had her son's 5th birthday, and they invited me to Sky Zone. And I am like the biggest kid ever. So, I, of course, let my inner kid out and jumped on the trampolines. So, of course, I tried my hand, y'all, at the Ninja Warrior. And let me just say, I fell on my face 3 times. But that's okay, right? Because for me, it was letting out that inner kid. So some type of movement for me is always the best way to go. So get out. It's nice here in Ohio for once. It's a nice sunny day today. So I plan on walking. I go for 9 walks a day. Walks are my way to really help myself to get back on a regular, if you want to call it like grounded space when I'm in the trenches of editing and doing all the things. So walking and then just doing something fun like going to Sky Zone or being a kid.
Awesome. I think I went to Sky Zone once and I was like, dang, I'm old now. I can't do this anymore. Who else would like to chime in?
I'll go.
Yeah.
So I have a theory I'm working with right now, and I think it plays out. I think most of you all will probably agree. If you can find something in your life that is musical or artistic, and do that for 15 to 20 minutes, half hour a day, something magical happens. Because when you are focused on, for instance, I play guitar. You can't play guitar and sing and think about anything bad at the same time. It's impossible. Your mind's just focused on that. If you're doing something artistic, if you're painting or drawing or doing something like that, you're not going to be thinking about all the bad stuff that goes on in your day or the stuff that might drive you crazy, because your mind, the way your mind works is when you're focused on something creative, artistic, or musical, that's all it focuses on. So for me, the biggest thing in my life with all the business stuff and all the personal stuff that goes on, when I can break out and play guitar for 20 minutes a day, it's better than meditation, because when you're meditating, sometimes those thoughts keep coming back in your head. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm still thinking about this or that, the other thing. You can't do that if you're focused on something creative. It just, I mean, I'm not sure why. Not sure the brain's wired that way, but at least for my brain, it's not happening. No bad thoughts, no crazy thoughts, no worry about this, worry about that. If I am playing guitar, if I am working on a art, or I don't do crafts, I do art. You want to know the difference between arts and crafts?
What's the difference?
The value you price it at. Art's very expensive, crafts aren't. So do art. Pick your art and do it, and just call it yours and own it. It doesn't have to be great. Mine isn't.
I love that. I always love that you have your guitars behind you too. I love the background. And it actually has been scientifically proven that your brain cannot be in a negative and a positive at the same time. So if you talk about like depression and happiness, right? Like you can't do them at the same time. So that's why the brain, when you're shifting into music or art or something that's on the positive side, our brains naturally go towards positivity, which also goes into what I was talking about earlier with the random acts of kindness. You can do that and it boosts what I call your brain's happy juices, which is your serotonin, your dopamine, and your endorphins.
One more thing to add to this, because some people, I'm not artistic, I don't know how to play a musical instrument. Just try.
Yeah.
Just pick something you always want to try and try. If you're just drawing a stick man, just draw a stick man. If you're just doing paint by colors, paint by numbers, because that's what you want to do, it doesn't matter what you do. Do something creative. Do something positive. I guarantee you'll feel so much better.
Yeah.
Well, I can answer to Jason. I can tell you, it's making me smile because my goal is to play the guitar like ZZ Top by the time I'm 70. I want to do it so bad. But to make you all laugh, I had to make you laugh because I love the guitar. My husband's a drummer, so he goes down half an hour every day and plays the drums, and I'm so jealous of it. But I work out. I work out with the Peloton every day. I see somebody new class every day, but that does shut my brain down. But because that's important to me, I love doing that. I love music, and it is proven that music, you turn it on, and it does so much I watched it even in the nursing home when I was running the admissions marketing director. We watched the music. When the music would come on, the mood, it was actually physical. You could see how it shifted people's brains and how things were, they were just shifting into a positive mode with music. So I think music's a big heal thing too. So yeah, I work out and enjoy when I really, really want to have 30 minutes to myself, and not really to myself, but to unwind and realize what a gift it is that I'm still here. I FaceTime my grandkids, and they get you right back to it. And then I tell them something goofy and they can't even believe I know it. You know, I love blowing their minds. They don't think that we're, they think I'm really old. Make you on a funny note before we end me today, probably, but I'm only 66, but my granddaughter, she's very young, and she said, we were watching the Titanic, and she goes, Mimi, were you around? What were you doing when the Titanic was on? I was like, when that happened, and I went, oh my word, we're having an age class now. So I had to sit her down and have an age class. So I guess it's just, I love to laugh. So I'm just like, I think humor is my thing.
Yeah, that's, at least you were compared to the Titanic. My son asked me if I was around during dinosaurs. So there's that.
Yeah.
How'd you answer that? Were you?
Well, I was like, the T-Rex was my buddy, but yeah.
I kind of do a combination of both of you. I just somehow a long time ago, if you can play the blues, we could have a good jamming session. Not sure how, never learned. I just play it, and that's always been a good release for me. My oldest brother, he passed away 30 years ago, but he was a concert pianist, and so I grew up around that, and maybe I got an ear for music, I think, because I would sit there and he would be playing some Beethoven or somebody, and I'm watching him, and I had obviously no clue. I mean, it could have been Greek or whatever, and he would nod, and I would turn the page for him. And I would just turn the page. But I think I got a little ear for music back then, and then for me, it's being out in nature. I have been a runner, triathlete in the past, and working my way back to being able to run in the trails again. But I do a lot of hiking. I do a lot of hiking, and I'll try to jog as much as I can, building back up the cardio. But both of those are my salvation, I think.
Amazing.
Great.
I know Dana has a really cool picture on her Facebook that I just saw the other day, or your cover image.
Yeah. Yoga is my go-to. I mean, I use my body, but what I like is using the mind, the intention, and the breath. And what I would say, everything that you're all saying is amazing. But making time to go, I'm in Northern California, our hiking trails are insane. But having the time to drive there, to get out, to put my shoes on, to get up, to get right, or even to pick up something to draw or to journal. I'm thinking, even as I'm sitting here getting ready to come on, right, and talk, how do I center myself? How do I get rid of nervousness or anxiety? Because everybody in our culture is anxious right now, and we don't all have time to do these things. I like to give people tools that they can access. So for me to be able to do poses like that on a rock, for example, what I enjoy is helping people understand that their breath is a tool, and you can calm your nervous system by breathing in through your nose. So let's all do that together. Let's take a nice deep breath in through your nose, and then longer than your inhale, exhale out your mouth. And keep breathing like that for a few more rounds. I'm going to ask you to do 2 more things. Turn your attention on your heart. Just turn it inward. You don't even have to close your eyes. You can do this in class. You can do this at work. You can do this on a Zoom. Nobody knows. And then just ask yourself, how do you want to feel? and feel that way. Feel confident, feel happy, feel joy, right? Feel clear. So to give you a little hint before I came on, I'm like, may my words be clear. May my focus be precise, right? Economy of word. So that's a tool that I like to give people. It's as clear and as accessible as your breath. And kids in class, they don't have a choice. They can't leave. And if they're stressed and they just got broken up with, or if they have a test, how do we help them resource themselves in the moment? They can calm their nervous system. They can use the power of their heart to calm, the cacophony of the mind. And so that's like one way that you can do something without having to go anywhere, without having to make 10 minutes for yourself. And I always tell the kids that I work with, nobody even knows you're doing it. That's so cool. So you have your own little private practice. But one I'll close with that's fun with y'all, because I like to have fun too, and use the body as well. And you have to pretend like you're kids, but I do this with adults too. But sit up tall and put one hand up in the air. I don't care which one. Put a hand in the air, cross your chest and put your hand on your shoulder. Put your other hand up, cross, and other hand on your shoulder. And repeat after me. I love myself.
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 And then you give yourself a hug and you go, ooh. Ooh. Oh, that was lame. I love myself. And then you ask them to go faster. I love myself. I love myself. Ooh, I love myself. You don't have to do it because clearly you are not game right now. But I mean, the breath is important. And then so is, fun and humor and things like that too. So just those are two things that I use in the work that I do often. I don't do that at screenings all the time, Jay. Don't worry about that.
I think it's great. Whatever you want to do.
I love that. I love that you said simple tools. Also, one that I always give is smiling. You always have your mouth with you, so you can smile until you fake it till you make it. That's something that you can do, because just the upward motion of smiling again releases the brain's happy juices, which I call them. And so that's definitely a tool that you always have with you, and very, very simple to be able to do at any point in time. And totally just fake it till you make it. Be like the Joker if you have to be.
Joker.
I thought Dana was going to make us do the hokey pokey. I was waiting. I'm like, are we about to do the hokey pokey?
Don't ask. Don't put her up to it. Don't put her up to it.
You mind if I share too, Kelly?
What?
You mind if I share too?
Oh, yes, please. Yes. I'm like, I think we have
a super easy one. I do like a superhero pose to kind of ground myself and feel very powerful and confident, especially if I'm feeling scared or depressed. And the other one, and I've worked with my daughter on this, I do a gratitude list every single day.
Oh, great.
So I'm looking for things all through the day that I'm going to throw on that list. And it shifts my whole focus throughout the whole day. I'm not looking for the negatives. I'm looking for the ray of sunshine at all times.
I love that. And did I forget anybody? Did anybody not get to go? Okay. I'm going to have you, so very quickly, because we're wrapping up here. I'm going to just have you share where people can find you. And I'm going to start with Karen. Where is the best place for people to find you?
Well, the best place I like is my website, which is www.karenkamba.com, because there you can read about me a little bit, find out about it, and then click on there and you can email me. So that's the best place for everybody to go. They can watch me on Mental Health Advocate, Karen Kamba, Mental Health Advocate for Children. That's a group page on Facebook. My Instagram is Karen Kamba Writes. And that's because there's another Kamba out there, another Karen Kamba. I don't know. I've never met her, but I was surprised to know there was another one. And then LinkedIn is just my name as well. And that's how they can find me. And I'm always there. I answer almost every email that I can get. And I'll leave everybody with one little tip. Just how to do this, because I've been working with MDs so much. There are starting to prove, if you will, our young people don't eat right. They're always not eating, either not eating or throwing junk in their face. And, they're just off to this or off to that sport, and their eating isn't real great. So they're starting to prove that. Why are we trying to just test middle age and women for hormones in the blood work? They're thinking that we should start doing that to our young people and see where their hormone level is, because a lot of this they think could be related to that, and they might have a vitamin deficiency going on. So that's my tip for the day that they're just starting to prove. So watch for that. That's going to be big for our kids.
Nice. Well, thank you for sharing and thank you for joining. I always appreciate you.
For meeting everyone. Thank you, Kelly.
Yeah,
thank you
of
for today. And
course.
thank you. It's so nice to meet everyone and be here today.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to go to Portia.
Well, first, again, send my gratitude to you, Kelly, for having me on again. So if anybody wants to follow me, I'm on Facebook, Portia Booker, Instagram, Portia the Grief Grantor, and then LinkedIn, Portia Booker as well. My last tip for everybody is remember, your story is not for you. Your story is to help other people to make their goals and dreams and aspirations for making the cemetery wealthier. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Portia. I so appreciate you on your sabbatical coming on to my special. All right, I'm going to go to Drew.
Well, there it is. So the easiest way to find me is bullyingrecoveryresourcecenter.org. We have a form on there that you can fill out if you need us to contact you. And our phone number is also on there as well. And we're also on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, my friend.
Yay. All right, Sam, it's your turn.
Well, I don't have a website or anything just yet. Everything is a work in progress. I do have a Facebook page, which I check probably way too much. I have two thoughts that I would like to share. First, I said it a little bit earlier, and I want to repeat it. It is get out of your brain and get into your mind. And if you don't understand the difference, look it up and find out, because there's a big difference between your brain and your mind. That's one. The next thing is believe in yourself. And I don't need to even comment on that.
Well, thank you so much for the first time being on my show and in this space. I appreciate you jumping on for me. And then I know, Jason, you already said it earlier, but either Dana or Jason, where can they find you both?
I don't know how you guys did that cool little button thing that came up below, but tell my story. Oh, that was Kelly. Look at that. That's where you can find us. Our socials are there as well. And I want to say thank you very much for having us back. I will be here every year until you tell me you don't want me anymore. And you all made my gratitude list today. So thank you all. It's great meeting you. Hopefully I connect with all of you at some point. But it was an honor to be here with you all. Thank you.
Amazing. And I think next time we should just start with a jam session. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Dana, did you want to share something?
I just want to say thank you for having me. And what I'll leave you with is what Jay says all the time for our organization, but straight from his heart. We want people to own their kids' mental health like they do their physical health. And, to echo what Sam says, your mind is powerful, trust yourself, but also listen to your heart, breathe into the preciousness and tenderness of your own life, and know that you are good just as you are.
Amazing.
So, thank you so much.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate you.
Likewise.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. Oh my gosh, that was amazing. This is a 2-hour special that you got a chance to see these incredible humans that surround me. Some of them on a daily basis, some of them on a monthly basis, some of them on a yearly basis. But no matter what, I have found so much community, so much connection, and really, truly, every single one of these people are a resource. And if you haven't watched my show yet, it is the Make Mental Health Matter show. I am on the Achieve TV channel. I go live every single Monday here on E360 TV at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. You can also listen on Dream Vision 7 Radio. You can simply say, Alexa, play Dream Vision 7 Radio. Hopefully she doesn't answer me. And you can listen. But either way, make sure you come back. I do these specials every single quarter, and I have amazing guests that join me every single time. So I hope you got a lot out of this, and I will see you next time.